What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bass. In today's video, we are talking about clear water fishing, bass fishing, ultra clear conditions, some of my favorite baits and techniques. Let's go. Now, as you can tell in the intro, my allergies are getting to me. They are getting, I'm all clogged up. And typically this time of the year, when the pollen starts getting everywhere, starts messing with me, it's time in my mind to go north and chase some clear water smallmouth or clear water largemouth. So today's video, that's what we're gonna talk about. So please don't mind my Kermit the Frog sound or whatever you wanna call it, but allergy time, springtime means for you northern anglers, it's ice out. You guys are already probably sticking big old smallies and big largemouth in your fisheries. But no matter where you are in the country, if you find yourself maybe on a highland reservoir with 15 to 20 foot of visibility, these baits, these techniques will help catch fish in those ultra clear situations. You know, growing up fishing on the West Coast, we had to be very diverse. We had fisheries with 20 and 30 foot visibility. We had tidal systems with the California Delta, natural lakes, Clear Lake, you know, the Shastas, the Oroville's, the Whiskey Towns, the Bullards Bar. We had a lot of different types of fisheries. And a lot of those fisheries had really, really clear water, but really, really, really big bass. So extreme pressure, clarity, you know, we had to learn to downsize. We're talking using light line, using smaller than average baits. So we're gonna kind of cover that today and help give you guys some confidence if you find yourself in a tournament situation on one of those types of fisheries, or maybe you're just fun fishing and you want to catch your new PB. In my mind, clear water fishing, you got to use, you got to be stealthy, right? We kind of talked about that earlier on this year. We talked about that up shallow with those shallow water fish in that pre-spawn and spawn stage. You know, being stealthy, wearing, you know, stealthy clothes, being quiet. Now we're talking about using lighter line, making longer casts, downsizing our baits to give these fish that finesse presentation. Now, even though I say finesse, that doesn't necessarily mean we're throwing all soft plastic. So got some reaction baits in here for you too. If you were going to ask me to build a Plano box or a tackle box of my favorite clear water baits, that's what we're gonna talk about today. Now you don't need all of these, but I got a few different techniques for you so you can pick and choose the style of fishing you like. But these are all confidence baits that Matt and I have used around the country and have had tremendous success on. So again, clear water fishing, those fish can see you from a long ways away. My number one tip, fight your instinct to get closer and closer to the area that you want to fish. You want to see into the water, right? You want to use your polarized glasses. You want to see if there's a 5-pound smallmouth up there, or if there's an 8-pound largemouth up there cruising the shallows. You have to stay back. Number two tip for you. If you're looking at the shoreline, again, I apologize, guys. If you're looking at the shoreline, okay, and you kind of see clear water, you see in bottom, then all of a sudden it breaks off and there's that color line. That is the line that you want to fish. Those fish are going to hold off of that edge down in that deeper water, just out of sight. So just where you can't see bottom anymore, that's where I'm making my cast to. I'm not throwing them right up on the bank. I'm throwing along that break, along that color line. So fish that, use that as your hard structure line, because that's where those fish are going to hang. It doesn't matter if you're throwing a jerkbait, if you're throwing a Ned rig, you're throwing an underspin, whatever you're fishing, use that as your line, okay? Again, gotta be ultra stealthy. Long casts, this is where, you know, your light line comes in, your 4s, 5s, 6, 7-pound test line, right? Those of you guys that like to throw BFS stuff, now you can throw a lot of these techniques on a bait caster. You know, for me personally, last year when I went north, I went up fished Lake Michigan, primarily that is a spinning rod fishery, right? You're using you're trading in your 852, yeah, your 2-power rod into for a 901, right? A 1-power rod, a little bit longer rod, a 7'6" with a super light tip that you can bomb those baits with. Now with the explosion of BFS, last year I took just a couple spinning rods up north and I did almost all of my damage on a BFS setup. Braid to leader or straight 6 or 7 pound fluorocarbon, throwing a swim bait. I caught several fish over 6 pounds, one just under 7 pounds, all smallmouth. It is it's a really cool way to use light line and cast your baits extremely far, and that is really, really important when we're talking about clear water visibility. Now I keep talking about clear water. Clear water is all relative, right? If you're on a fishery that typically has 1 foot to 2 foot of viz, and now you have 5 foot of viz, those fish are going to feel like it's pretty clear. If you're on a fishery that has typically 15 to 20 foot of viz, and now it's 25 foot of viz, kind of the same. You know, I fished a fishery last year, Lake Michigan. I kid you not, without glasses, I could see bottom in 57 feet. Crystal clear. And when I tell you that, I have witnesses that were there with me, and they can vouch for the fish that would swim away as soon as we got close, right? So you're making long bomber casts. Again, fight that urge to get up on that point or that area that you want to fish. You know, get off your big motor early, be stealthy, and make long casts. So if you are a guy that likes to throw spinning rods, this is where your 7.4s, your 7'6s, your 7/8s, 8-foot spinning rods really come into play. Light line, long distance, you can really send those baits. So now let's talk about the baits. You don't necessarily need just finesse soft plastic. So this time of the year, I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm still covering water. Even though it's cold, we've proven through the years that fish will still chase down a speed crank, right? They'll still chase down an A-rig. I'm looking for those schooled up fish. Again, clear water, it's typically colder. Those fish are probably still in that pre-spawn phase. So they're gonna be schooling up, they're gonna be moving up. It's time to cover water. And then on the flip side, once you do find that isolated rock pile, or you find that main lake point that those fish are on, then you can slow down and throw some of your favorite finesse baits, okay? If I'm starting out in this situation that we just talked about, number one bait for me is going to be a single swim bait, okay? Specifically, this head right here, that is the Tactical Bassin finesse swim bait head. It's got a 30-degree line tie, just like the Matt Allen, but it's a lighter wire hook. So you can use your 10, your 12-pound tests and still get good hook penetration using that lighter line. And then I'm going with some kind of electric bluegill or chartreuse blue color. You know, these baits really shine in clear water. For whatever reason, that, especially if you're a guy that's chasing smallmouth, those are by far my 2 best colors. You know, you can throw electric shad in there too as a close third, but those specifically, I'll link those down below in the video description, but those specifically are my go-to colors. You know, whether it's an X-Zone swammer, more of an aggressive kick, something if you find yourself in a little bit warmer water, or an easy shiner, right? Something that has a little bit tighter kick. So my personal best smallmouth, 7 pounds, came on a chartreuse and blue Kitech on that head right there, okay? Boom, that is my confidence bait. That's where I throw, that's what I throw like 90% of the time. Now, on the flip side, I can downsize. I can go with a little guppy head with a little 3.3 or 2.8. You know, some kind of, whether it's a Kitech or a little swammer, again, depends on the water temperature. And we're gonna do a more in-depth, probably a more in-depth finesse swim bait video here in the next couple of weeks or so. So I'm not gonna go too in-depth with it because a lot of them have different swims, and we'll cover that in that video. But I will link my favorites down below. So a guppy head, that tactical finesse head, and then my other favorite is the, what did I do with them? The Okashira head. Oh, I got it in my pocket. Let me pull this guy out there for you. So that Kitech, whether it's the Easy Shiner, the Swing Impact Fat, that X-Zone Swammer, or this guy right here. This is the Mega Bass Okashira head. It's got that little prop on it. It's off-centered, so it adds a little bit of wobble. And then the Megabass Spark Shad. That is the ultra finesse. You know, that is your 4, 5, 6 pound test. You're throwing this thing just slow enough or just fast enough that that blade is spinning a lot like a spy bait, but it's throwing that bait off kilter just enough to get that bait wobbling, and that thing is killer. So that guy right there is an awesome, awesome finesse swim bait. Again, we're covering water, so we're making long casts, we're covering water to find those fish. So a swim bait, okay? That's my #1 go-to. A close second, actually I can't leave this category without talking about this guy right here. And I specifically grabbed this bait because this fish right here caught a little over 60 fish for me, okay? That's a last year's dark sleeper. No more eyes, no more face, completely ripped up, but that thing, the uglier it got, the more the fish ate it. Those fish just choke that dark sleeper, specifically that smaller size in the 3/4 ounce. You know, this is a fairly heavy bait, but the way it's shaped, I like to fish it just off bottom, so I really like that 3/4 ounce bait. But that guy right there, that thing has been to war and it has caught me so many fish. Look at that thing, just beat up. So a dark sleeper works wonders this time of the year as well. Now, a couple other reaction baits before we talk about finesse. I cannot do this video without talking about some kind of jerk bait, okay? Specifically, the Megabass 110 Junior +1 in either Elegy Bone or Northern Secret. Those are my 2 favorite colors. Clown is also another good color. It's a visibility thing. So here I'm preaching about light line, ultra finesse, but with these reaction baits, I like a little bit of color, especially if you're on a smallmouth fishery. They love or hate, depending how you want to look at it, that chartreuse, that color, okay? So Elegy Bone, Northern Secret, Clown, those are my favorite colors in the jerk bait. And then same type of thing with the crank, the speed crank, right? Either chartreuse blue or some kind of natural green pumpkin. That's a green pumpkin craw, that's chartreuse blue. Again, those baits really shine in clear water. That's our tactical DD crank. You guys know how much we love that. It is designed specifically for this situation. Colder water, clearer water, real tight action. But the swim bait, the jerk bait, and the crankbait are my 3 go-to reaction baits that I have in that tackle box with me no matter where I go in those situations, okay? One alternative I want to give you guys, I feel like it's kind of a sleeper and been kind of forgotten the last couple years with the explosion of, you know, hover strolling and mid strolling and you know, jig and minnow or whatever you want to call it, forward facing sonar, but a version of a hard swim bait, the spy bait, that guy right there, right? Blade, prop on the front, prop on the back, adds that real subtle wobble. If you guys follow the channel, you know that Matt and I messed the big fish up last year on these guys right here. That is the Duo spin bait. That's the 80, right? That is an amazing spy bait. So a lot less reactive than those 3 baits I talked about earlier. But again, you fire that out across your favorite point or that area that you want to fish, and you're just slowly reeling it back, and those props have that bait shimmying like that, and those fish just choke it. So if you find yourself not getting bit on the swim baits or the faster moving baits, you can go with the spy bait. That is killer. So now we're probably going to talk about some stuff you probably expected. You know, finesse tubes, drop shot, Ned rig, that sort of thing. Anytime I'm finding myself in ultra clear water, obviously I have some kind of finesse baits tied on, slow moving baits, light line. You guys know, as far as a Ned rig, over the last year or 2, how much we love this guy. I'm not going to pull it out of I'll pull it out of the package. How much we love this guy. This is the X Zone Ned Zone. Okay, little bulbous tail, You know, the Z-Man, the TRD is awesome, right? It's that Elastec. It works really, really well. A lot of guys are throwing it. So the X-Zone gives that a little different presentation. It has a bulbous tail, a lot of subtle action. It does sit straight up, looks really, really good in the water. And then one other one that I have played around with, especially with underwater, that really stood out to me was this guy right here. This is the Duo Realis Wriggle ND. Again, it's kind of that Elastec-y material, but it has multiple sections to it that have different sizes, tapers down and bulbs out, and it has tremendous action in the water. Again, doing some underwater footage of some different Ned rigs, baits, and that guy really, really stood out, and I've caught several fish on him now. Very happy with those guys. Again, I will link this stuff down below in the video description, but a Ned rig, it's just one of those baits that you kind of have to have with you. You know, you get bluebird skies, you get no wind, real finessey situations. It doesn't get much more finessey than just slowly dragging that Ned rig, pop it up over a rock, just drag it, shake it a little bit. Those fish are gonna key into it and eat. Big largemouth, big smallmouth, all of the above. All right, 2 more for you. Let's go a finesse tube. You can throw a full-size tube. Again, if I'm going ultra finesse, if I'm going clear water, I can get away with like a big bite baits tour tube. That's one of my favorites, super soft. If I have to downsize, I'm going with this guy right now. This is the NetBait STH 2.5 finesse tube. I want to show you guys this little guy. One of my favorite heads to actually put in this is the tactical guppy head. It just works really, really well. Let me go ahead and rig this up for you guys. This thing has a stout hook on it. It's the perfect size. Look at that little guy right there. Specifically this color, it's called Juvenile Goby. If you're a smallmouth guy, you guys know what's up, right? That juvenile goby, those gobies, especially Great Lakes, those northern fisheries that have gobies in them, that is a must. But a little tiny finesse tube. Now this works in highland reservoirs in Northern California. It works up in the Great Lakes, all over the place. Clear water, downsized tubes, that guy right there. I mean, look at that compared to a Ned rig, okay? Really, really finessey, but still a good stout hook. And those fish in that clear water, we're not presenting baits that are too big or too much for them. That real finessey presentation can really get those fish to eat when other normal sized baits won't, right? That's why we're talking about throwing hair jigs later on. We're talking about throwing downsized stuff, because crystal clear water, it can be intimidating for a lot of anglers. But if you downsize your favorite presentations, you can still get bit, okay? Now, last but not least, a drop shot. This is probably one of my, I always have it with me. Those situations, that's basically gonna be my slowest presentation, right? You throw it out there, deeper water, you're fishing that dark line again, right? That color line. Maybe you're in 20 to 25 foot and you need to get down and that Ned rig's not doing it for you. Throwing out a drop shot. Typically, I'm throwing a 1/4 ounce weight. I like to get that weight down, and I wanna have, I wanna have good bottom contact with that tungsten weight. 2 of my favorites, the missile baits, bomb shot, big bite baits, smallie smasher. Now, both of these baits, what they have in common, kind of a flat belly, a really thin paddle tail, so real subtle action. And that's what really, really matters in that clear water. You don't need a bait that's all over the place. You just want something that's down there just shimmying with the current. So those are 2 of my favorites. Again, the smallie smasher, if you're a smallie guy, that's the name for it. And then that bomb shot, you guys knows how much we love that bait based on underwater footage. That thing just looks phenomenal. So those 2 guys right there. The flatworm is another really good worm too. Again, all these worms, they have that flatter belly, flatter bottom in common, and they have that same type of really subtle action with that real thin paddle tail on it. Now, last but not least, guys, line, okay? I mentioned it a few times during this video, but now is the time where you're going straight fluorocarbon. 4, 5, 6, 7 pound test. Over the last couple years, you guys know that I've really loved, Matt and I both, that 7 pound FC Sniper. Okay, that 7 pounds seems to be the trick. On a BFS setup, straight fluorocarbon, you can cast a mile, you can hook big fish, you don't break off. You know, Seagar and VizX in that 6 or 8, those are both really, really good lines. And then if you're a guy that wants to play with that braid to leader, I recommend like a 5 pound or a 6 pound braid to a 6 or 7 pound leader. Again, with that braid, that smaller diameter, you're talking like 1 pound to 2 pound line diameter. You can fit a lot of line on there and you can cast a country mile. Now the downside, if you're a guy that struggles with eyesight, it's really hard to tie those connection knots. So if you're a guy that just likes it easy, likes dependability, straight up 7 pound is our go-to. Straight up 7 pound. Like I said, I caught so many giant smallmouth last year, and one just under 7, I think it was like 698 or something, and several high sixes on that right there. Okay, that and then the 6 pound in VizX. Those were my two go-tos. But guys, don't be intimidated by clear water. Clear water fishing can be awesome. It can be heartbreaking when you see those fish swim away, but it can be awesome too when you see that wolf pack coming up behind your bait and they're fighting over eating it. It is just one of those things that I love. I love going north. I love fishing clear water. I grew up doing it. And so I'm not, you know, I'm not one of those guys that grew up fishing muddy, shallow water, flipping a jig and a spinnerbait all the time. You know, this is a technique, or these are techniques that I'm very comfortable with and has produced a PB for me. So guys, if you have any questions, please leave those down below in the comment section. I will try to get to those as soon as possible. Again, I apologize for my nasally congested voice. It's allergy time. It is time to go north and chase some smallmouth. As always, guys, we appreciate the support. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you guys on the next video.